All right, so we have never, ever run a sale at Creativ Rise. This is an exciting little announcement I get to make because there's been so many people. We actually got DMs with this like 2 weeks ago. People saying, hey, are you ever gonna put some of your courses on sale? And our answer to that is always no, the price is the price. However, we decided this year, it was actually you. You're like, hey, we should do a Black Friday sale.
Was my
and
idea.
I was like, really?
You're
and
welcome,
like, yeah.
everybody.
And I was like, okay, fine, we'll do it. So we are doing our first ever Black Friday sale, and it starts today. The day this podcast drops, you can officially go to creativrise.com/shop and get every single thing there for 50% off. And even better, there is a bundle deal if you buy all of our main courses, so the outreach templates, the brand strategy blueprint, and the portfolio to profit course. If you buy all of those, it's actually over 50% off. So here's what those deals look like. If you use code Black Friday, anytime you check out on creativrise.com, you can get the outreach templates, not for $99, but for $49. If you use code Black Friday, you can get the portfolio to profit course, which is the 7 steps to build a website that actually sells. You need this if you are a creative. You've got to stop having your website just look like a portfolio. It's actually got to be a website that's engineered to sell somebody based on the narrative that your website is selling. And we actually give you the framework for that and teach you how to implement it really easily. That is not $397. That is $199. If you get the brand strategy blueprint course, which if you've not checked it out, it is a piece of the brand strategy that I use in my own business, that we use in our own business, that we do massive amounts of brand strategy for companies, and we charge them ridiculous amounts of money to do it. This is a piece of that framework that is so helpful for you and your own socials, but it is also something, so a little tip here, you can take this course, use it for yourself, and then learn how to use it for your clients, and you can charge your clients a ton of money for what you learn in the course. Yeah. We've actually had Creativ Rise Mastermind members do that. Somebody made like 10 grand off selling the implementation of what they learned in the brand strategy course to one of their clients, and they charged them like 10 grand. So that course is not $397, that is also $199. Now here's the thing, if you get the outreach templates, $99 typically, you get the portfolio to profit course, $397 typically, and you get the brand strategy blueprint course, $397. That is over $800 worth of value. We're selling all of those in a bundle, massive Black Friday sale for $397. One payment, $397, done deal, you get all of it. So all you gotta do is go to creativrise.com, use code Black Friday to get screaming deals. Yeah. Absolutely screaming deals on everything. And if you want the bundle, make sure you click on the bundle deal and you will get all of it for $397. So for everybody who's been asking for sales, congratulations. Christy convinced me this morning that we should do it. And so we are going to be doing a Black Friday sale. But this episode is going to be fun.
This episode
that was long-winded, but this is going to be fun.
Let's so fun because we are talking about influencer marketing. You might be thinking, I hate influencer marketing. I hate when I see that. I don't think it's good, all that kind of stuff. Here's the thing, it works. This is why all the big companies are utilizing influencer marketing is because influencer marketing is essentially all it is borrowing someone's audience. Yeah. It's borrowing that airtime where you have this trusted person talking about whatever it is they're trying to sell. And that community then looks at that person that they look up to and trust and go, yep, if they want it, I want it too. Which is why you should start implementing influencer marketing in your small creative business. And you might be thinking, I don't have thousands of dollars to pay someone to post about me. That is not what we're talking about. Today, we're actually talking about how to utilize influencer marketing for free, or not even only just for free, but maybe even to get paid for it as well.
Come on.
Let's go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how influencer marketing has actually worked for me. This is something that jump-started my career from the very beginning, and I would not be where I am today without it. So, backstory. Very beginning of my photography career, I was wanting to get into weddings. I had shot like a friend of a friend's wedding in a backyard one time, but was getting 0 wedding inquiries. I was only part-time at the time. I was just deciding I was wanting to get into it. And I remember I was talking to one of my friends who was one of the only other wedding photographers I knew. And I was like, hey, can I just like tag along with you on a shoot? And she was like, absolutely. Come to San Diego this weekend. I have like a styled shoot that I'm doing. It's going to be super fun. I show up and we're working with an up-and-coming influencer. She didn't have like hundreds of thousands of followers at the time, but she was an influential person in her community and she was really growing and getting a lot of attention online. We got a whole dress company to work with us. It was awesome. We shot the shoot with this influencer. It was awesome. I then started marketing it online afterwards. I started posting about it, tagging the influencer, tagging the dress company, tagging every brand. And I started getting crazy traction on not only my posts, but I was also getting a ton of traction because the influencer was reposting what I was posting and then also posting my content herself and tagging me. And classic influencer effect, my audience started to grow. So I almost instantaneously started getting tons of wedding inquiries, inquiries in San Diego. I started growing and growing and growing to the point where 6 months after the shoot, I was full time. And I actually attribute a lot of that to this influencer marketing effect. I've also implemented this influencing and marketing effect because I saw it work for me at the very beginning. I continued to do it throughout my entire career. I would choose to work with certain influential people or actual influencers throughout my time. And honestly, it was a total game changer. Anytime I worked with an influencer, whether it was for free or it was for full price paid, which I was doing a lot as well, I would get so many inquiries right after from their community that, you guys, this is just something you cannot ignore. If you are someone who wants more inquiries, more audience, more sales, you gotta look into this. It's really so powerful.
100%. So there's a couple different ways you can work with influencers. Christy just gave you an example. I'm going to give you a couple other examples here. And then I'm going to tell you a story about how I've used this in my own career. And we, spoiler alert, still use this today.
Oh, yeah.
We started doing this when I started my career 10 years ago. Christy, for you, like 6, 7 years ago. We still do this. So it is so important to know that you don't ever outgrow this. You will never outgrow seeing an opportunity to use somebody else's warm audience for leverage in your own business in some way. So a couple different ways you can do this. Number one, you can do a trade for services with an influencer. Now, what are the influencer services? Obviously, it is them giving you access to a relationship, a community, an audience that you currently do not have access to for something. And you typically are giving them photos, maybe it's videos, maybe you're building a website for them, whatever it is going to be. Trade for services is where you have to figure out, hey, what do I have of somewhat equal value? Or maybe they just really wanted to, even if it's not equal value, they really, really want what I have. How can I position it in a way where they just really want to say yes? It is a trade for services. That is the first one that's really important. Number two, second way you can work with influencers, you can actually pitch them on content services that are not necessarily like your main core offer. Could be something a little bit adjacent, but it's cool when you watch how that relationship can then swing back to them either buying your core offer or them telling the world about you, and also all of a sudden a ton of people want your core offer.
Yeah,
right?
A way that this is an example of this is our good friend Biba Vals, which we just had her on the podcast.
Shout out Biba.
If you haven't listened to that episode, go back. It's a few episodes ago. It was incredible interview. You're gonna love it. She worked with an influencer named Hannah Godwin, huge influencer in the space. Hannah actually reached bachelor space and just influencer space. She reached out to Biba and was like, hey, I have this app. I need some like lifestyle photos for it. Now, at the time, Biba was doing mostly weddings. Like that was like her core offer, her wheelhouse was weddings. And she reached out to her asking for photos that were not weddings. And so Biba's like agreed to do it, was like, yeah, let's go outside of my wheelhouse. Let's do some content that I normally don't do. So she did that over and over again with Hannah Godwin. And then about a year later, Hannah hired her to shoot her wedding. So she ended up going from a content she doesn't normally do to actually booking her core offer with that client.
Same person.
So if someone asks you to do something that's maybe a little bit out of your wheelhouse of what you normally do, watch as maybe you will actually end up getting to do your core offer for that person, or you will get to utilize their audience to book your core offer, which is super cool.
Well, and I have an example of this too with myself, is when I was transitioning from Joey, the guy who owns a creative agency who typically only works with outdoors brands, to I want to become a branding consultant. I want to start helping people actually build really, really solid brands that are going to make them a ton of money. That transition actually happened for me almost overnight. So what happened was I was at a business mastermind event with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I started to talk to some people about the idea I was having on, hey, I think there's some stuff I've been learning in this space over the last 4 to 5 years that I think would translate into this space, and I'm thinking about making the jump. And all of a sudden, what happened was one person heard me talk about it and they were like, okay, tell me some more about that. And we got into a conversation and I was able to expose a bunch of things that he could be doing better in his brand. And then I got to help him with it pretty quickly. He put me on his podcast and all of a sudden he introduced me as like, oh, Joey is incredible. He's a branding expert. Next thing I knew, that was who I was. So what's cool also about using influential people is you can rewrite the narrative of who you are. And this kind of happened with Biba too. Biba became overnight like the wedding photographer to an incredible brand photographer, like a lifestyle brand photographer, using influencers to rewrite the narrative of what you do
Yeah.
can actually change the narrative of who you are as a creative almost instantaneously. So that is also a cool thing where if you don't have that, it might take you a couple months to like really transition your content, transition how people see you. Where if you have a really trusted voice with a big audience, say, nope, Joey is now this, everyone thinks it's true.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Which is really cool.
Absolutely.
So the third way that you can kind of look at how to work with influencers is getting towards brands by utilizing the influencer. So the reality is any brand you want to work with, and this goes for the wedding space, whether it's like a bridal shop, it's a dress company, or this goes for the brand space, my background, like, outdoors brands, big commercial company, like whatever it's going to be in the brand space. Typically, every company you actually want to work with is already working with some type of an influencer. So my example of this is I grew up in the ski and snowboard industry as an athlete, and then I started to shoot video and started to shoot photo. So I was like an athlete / creative in that space. Now, I had a lot of friends that were better athletes than I was, and they started getting paid by these brands pretty young to go out and do things. And eventually they started going to the X Games and the Olympics and all this stuff. So I started to notice, okay, wow, these guys are influencers in our space, and they're all starting to get the connections I would love for photo and video. They're getting them as an athlete. So the question is, well, how do I somehow get that connection, get that relationship? I can help my friends do their job better because the brands are hiring them as athletes to go out and perform, get attention, win podiums. If I can help my friends create social content, really show up online, the brands are actually going to like them even more. And then what's going to happen is my friends are going to pitch me to the brands because they're saying, oh yeah, the brand's going to say, man, that piece of content was so epic. Like, who shot it? And they go, oh, my friend Joey shot that. Next time you send me on a trip to this place to go ski or snowboard, we should bring Joey. And that's what started to happen. So I started to utilize influencers in that space, which at the time, in that industry I was in was the professional athletes. I started to utilize them as my gateway to the brands. It is so crazy how quickly, when you start to help the influencer do their job really well with a brand, how quickly they will help bring you towards that relationship, and you will form a relationship with the brand too. So that's a couple different ways. I'm going to repeat them real quick. Trade for services with an influencer. You can pitch an influencer on your services or your core offer. So it's like, hey, actually, I can do this for you. It's going to be paid, and eventually maybe it might swing back to your core offer. And then third, you can actually utilize the influential people that are in between where you are and the brands you want to work with, and you can utilize them as the bridge by helping the influential person do their job for the brand even better. And you'll get the relationship eventually one day.
And I want to make a quick disclaimer. There's a lot of people in the creative industry who are like, oh, I hate influencers. Like, people always asking me to do things for free.
Yeah.
Like, I don't ever do anything for free.
The influencers take all the work.
Yeah, they take all the work. I don't want to do this. I don't want to utilize this. Here's the thing. You can either ride the wave or you can get crushed by it. So you might as well ride the wave. And secondly, you don't have to do everything for free. The problem with certain influencer marketing is people utilize the wrong influencer. So you might be wondering, well, how do I pick the right influencer? Look for the influencer who has audience that is your ideal client. So look for the one who they already have the eyes of your ideal client. It goes wrong.
That goes for not only like, hey, I'm a wedding photographer, they've got my ideal bride in their audience. That also goes for brands. Like that influencers got my ideal audience, which is the brands they're working with, right? So it goes both ways.
So you don't want to work with just anybody. Make sure you vet the influencer to go, hey, do they actually have my ideal client's eyes and ears that I can then borrow? Just want to make a quick disclaimer because I know a lot of people sometimes are like, influencers, no thanks. You guys ride the wave, pick the right people. It'll be awesome. So you might be wondering, okay, I'm in, I'm convinced, I want to start doing this, but how do I pitch an influencer? Like, what do I do? Should I just DM them right now? Wait, don't pause the podcast just yet. We have some specific points to make sure that your pitch lands well. So we want to talk about, how to get influencers to actually want to work with you, how to receive your pitch well, because they, again, get pitched all the time.
Yeah.
So number one, most important one, is figure out what is in for it for the influencer. Why is this going to be beneficial to work with you for the influencer? So is it going to make their life easier? Like, is this something that's like, hey, they normally have to go and get their boyfriend to shoot their content and they hate it, or they have to set up a tripod. It's really awkward in person. It takes forever. if you going and shooting their content is going to make their life so much easier, that's a huge bonus. Is it going to give them something they don't have? Like maybe they're only doing iPhone content. They could be doing professional content.
Or they are good at photo, but they don't know how to do video.
Exactly. Or is this going to help them expand their audience? Is this going to help them make more money? Is this going to help them deliver better to their brands? Is this going to do all those types of things? Or is it going to benefit them in that you're offering to do a free family shoot for them or a free bridal session for them or something like that?
What is in it for them?
What is in it for them? And you want to lead with that.
Yeah, the reason why you want to lead with that is because, again, this goes for everything, not just working with influencers. This goes for working with anybody, a bride, a brand, an influencer. No one will ever want to work with you until they notice that the value you are giving them is more significant than the value they have to trade, meaning the money or their time or whatever it's going to be. So it's really important that when you start thinking about pitching an influencer, you actually understand how what you do is going to be beneficial to them. If you don't understand that, no one's ever going to want to respond to you or work with you. So start there. Now, number 2 is you have to then decide what is the best how for what I just decided was going to help this influencer. So number 2 is going, okay, now that I know what I want to help them do, I want to help make their life easier by doing boom, 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 boom. What is my actual method to doing that? And the reason why I say that is if you can come up with how you can actually help them solve a problem, then you have ideas to then pitch them with.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think about how they can actually help an influencer in depth. Therefore, when it comes time to pitch them, their pitch is really flat and doesn't have any taste. It's distasteful because there's no ideas there. There's no substance. So number 2 is after you've already figured out what is in it for the influencer, you have to then figure out, okay, what is the actual how, the method on how I'm going to give this influencer more value. Let's actually stretch that out a little bit. Let's come up with a few ideas. That is so important. So come up with a couple ideas. Don't just come up with one, a couple ideas. Typically 2 to 3 is really great so that you can actually walk into that conversation with an influencer and you can give them a few ideas that they can actually sit and munch on.
Yeah, that's great. And then number 3, decide what's in it for you. Again, this isn't just like a charity thing. This is something to help you grow your business. So do you need access to their audience? So would it be something where you're trading your services for them to post about you or to tag about you? Just as simple as that. It's a really clear-cut one. I would recommend going that route. Or number 2, do you need an intro to a relationship that they have that you don't? Again, in the brand space, maybe they're working with a certain company. You want to get in with that company, in with that rep, whatever it is. They have access to that person. Do you just need a reputation boost? Do you just need to be known as someone who is working with people who are influential and successful, or they look like your ideal client, or whatever that is? Or do you just need a boost?
Or like what I was talking about earlier in my example of I got on somebody's podcast just after I'd worked with them, and they sold a new narrative about what I was trying to transition into, and almost instantaneously, I had a new brand, right? Which is really cool.
Totally.
That wouldn't have been possible without them. So my reputation needed that momentum boost, right?
Yeah.
So number 4, this is pretty important. Stay away. Our advice is to stay away from influencers that are already partnered up with agents when you are contacting them. The reason why is because obviously if an influencer is partnered up with an agent's goal is to make money. If you go into a deal or into a conversation with an influencer going, hey, I want to do a trade for services with you on this, this, and this, that is pretty distasteful to an agent because an agent's like, there's no way for me to make money on this.
No
I don't
cut
want to
for them.
farm out my influencer. As bad as that sounds, agents are like, I don't want to like rent out my influencer for free, if I'm not going to be getting paid for it. So typically people that aren't yet represented by agents are a little bit more approachable.
Yes, and even if they do have an agent, I would still say reach out, but send them a DM. Don't go through their agent's email.
Yes.
Like a lot of people will say like, oh, contact this handle, or not a handle, an Instagram or email is what I'm thinking, for booking. Don't go through that. Go straight to the DM or a personal route to talk to the influencer. Try to get the actual person because that is the person you're trying to benefit, not the agent. And then number 5, make sure when you pitch, when you DM them, that you are leading with the value for them. That is like the biggest thing. This is where you pitch your ideas. This is where you give them open-ended ideas as well. It's not just, hey, I have this idea for this exact thing, period. Because then you're just going to get a yes or no response at all if it doesn't work for them. So pitch a couple ideas, leave it open-ended, talk about, hey, if there's something else you need help with, I'm happy to chat about it. And then give them even some like potential available dates. Like let's say you're trying to shoot for an influencer's family for like the fall season, and you could pitch, an idea of, hey, let's go to this pumpkin patch farm on this day, or does another date work for you? Something like that. Make sure to give them the idea that you are flexible, that you want to help benefit them, and just be super clear on what you're asking, concise. And then just the whole point is to build a relationship.
Yeah.
The whole point is to create a discussion online with them, to create that rapport, to create that trust. Because again, you would love for this to be like a long-term relationship as well. And you want to make sure you are not coming off as someone who's like slimy, just wanting it for themselves, because then they're not going to want to post you. They're not going to want to brag about you. You want to get a great testimonial with this influencer. You want them to post about you and to want to do that. So that is how you pitch an influencer.
100%, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, to remind you, influencers are not bad. They're phenomenal people to work with. They can really help boost your business. And something else that can help boost your business is our massive Black Friday sale. So 50% off everything on creativrise.com/shop, and even more than 50% off if you buy the bundle. So use code Black Friday on creativrise.com. You can find all the links in the description to all of those amazing deals that we got going on, and we cannot wait to see how those courses are going to help boost your business this year, because they've been so influential and impactful for so many other creatives, and they had to pay double the price. So
and if you wanna,
make sure you go get the deal.
If you want to gift this to someone as well, that is an awesome way to support another creative in your
Merry
life.
Christmas. There you go.
Merry Christmas.
A little bit
gift,
early
Happy
for that,
Hanukkah.
but a little bit Merry Christmas.
But that's what you use Black Friday to shop for your Christmas
Yeah,
presents,
I agree.
right?
I
For my
agree.
Christmas present, right, Joe?
Yeah, I probably should do
Yeah,
that.
probably.
Note to all husbands, start shopping
Start
this Black
shopping.
Friday so that your wife is very happy when it comes time for Christmas. But guys, we'll see you next week on the Creativ Rise podcast. Thanks for being here. From me, from you, and the rest of the team here behind Creativ Rise. So grateful that you're listening to the podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.